Very good evening to you. You're watching eNEWS Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela.
And I'm Sandy Negangose. Good evening.
Remember to comment on any of our stories. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct.
And tonight's hashtags are civil protest and local elections 2016.
And we start with this. Civil society organizations have announced a campaign to remove President Jacob Zuma. They want South Africans to unite for a mass protest on Freedom Day, and that's on the 27th of April. The groups believe President Jacob Zuma has dishonored the Constitution by not offering to step down in the wake of the Nkandla judgment. They say he's disappointed millions of South Africans.
President Zuma has become a liability to our beloved country. Without his removal as a first step, we cannot start to reach and rebuild the country of our dreams.
That's the message from religious groups, unions, academics, and even some ANC heavyweights.
Through the power of the people and the Constitution, we are putting down the marker. He must go.
The organizations say President Jacob Zuma should have resigned after the Constitutional Court judgment. Last week, the court ruled that he had failed to uphold the Constitution by disregarding the Public Protector's remedial actions in the Nkandla matter.
I never thought I would have to worry about my president, the leader of my organization, having to feature every day in newspapers about things that is contrary to the values that people have lived for and died for in my country.
South Africa is going through its darkest hour. We are in the middle of a serious political and socio-economic crisis.
The civil movement has outlined a plan of action which includes a national dialogues and various forms of social mobilization. The presidency has declined to comment.
Well, opposition parties have exhausted all legal options to force President Jacob Zuma out of office. One constitutional law expert believes it's up to South African citizens to take a stand. Meanwhile, opposition parties are pushing ahead with efforts to have the president disciplined by the National Assembly.
See, when later today the votes are counted, you will claim a victory.
Opposition parties were under no illusion that the ANC would use its majority to prevent President Jacob Zuma from being impeached. But they haven't given up yet.
The legal question arises out of, can a constitutional court find somebody to have acted in violation of the Constitution? And they use the majority in Parliament to violate not only their oath of office as members of Parliament, but also the Constitution itself. Therefore, we need to clarify that lacuna that sits in the Constitution. Can the ANC use the majority to, in effect, absolve a criminal?
At least one legal expert says there's not much Parliament can do beyond a motion of no confidence or the ultimate sanction of impeachment, both of which have failed.
Outside those two provisions, there is no other, aside from political mass protests, but there's no other avenue that you can use to discipline the president within the constitutional system.
Professor Mhango says it's up to South Africans to stand up if they feel strongly about the matter.
Remember that our constitution says that in the preamble that our government is based on the will of the people.
Meanwhile, the ANC's Sifago Makgato branch in Johannesburg's inner city has called on the party's National Executive Committee to ask Jacob Zuma to resign, both as ANC president and president of the country. Xolu Mngambi, Johannesburg.
In other news, the presidency has confirmed local government elections will take place on the 3rd of August. The announcement comes ahead of the final voter registration weekend. Electoral body, the IEC, says it's hoping even more people will show up to register. In March, at least 3 million South Africans registered to vote in the upcoming elections.
Thousands of registration stations will be open across the country this weekend. The Independent Electoral Commission is confident it's ready to host a successful vote.
Barring a major national catastrophe, these elections will happen in terms of the constitutionally mandated time periods.
There are some challenges, though. The Commission is waiting for the Constitutional Court to rule on the postponement of Tlokwe by-elections in the Northwest. Independent councillors maintain that the IEC can't validate the addresses of 4,000 voters. The by-election won't be fair. The case will be heard next month.
We are sensibly trying to address a matter that potentially has ample room to create uncertainty. And we are seeking, if you look at our papers, quite a bit of clarity before the courts.
The IEC says confirming voters' addresses is a work in progress.
Let me say to you that enormous amounts of efforts have been taken to source addresses where we can source them and to deal with that.
The IEC is hoping that it's managed to convince eligible voters to turn out to the more than 20,000 stations. After that, the only way to get on the voters' roll will be with a trip to your municipal office. Zikhona Chona, Pretoria.
The Fidentia scandal is once again in the spotlight. The leaked papers of Panama-based law firm Mossack Fonseca has raised fresh concern over the whereabouts of the missing millions intended for the widows and orphans of mine workers. 11.5 million documents exposed how the rich and powerful hide their wealth offshore emerged. 2 former Fidentia bosses have been named in the documents.
It's been years since the Fidentia bubble burst. Mastermind J. Arthur Brown was convicted of 2 counts of fraud for swindling millions of rands from a fund set up for some 47,000 widows and orphans of mine workers. He scammed them of over 500 million rand through a pyramid scheme in which he used the funds for personal gain. Brown was sentenced to 15 years in jail in December 2014. It's been reported that Fidentia's convicted accountant Graham Maddock apparently paid Panama-based law firm Mossack Fonseca $59,000 in 2005 and 2006 to create 2 sets of offshore companies. The Financial Services Board says that while investigations in 2008 show that foundations with the Panama links were set up, there was no evidence then that the money had flowed there. But it says in light of these new developments, it will look into the matter to see if further investigations or action is necessary. Meanwhile, thousands of mine workers, widows and orphans are still living in abject poverty because of one of the biggest financial scams in South Africa. Team Tongana, Cape Town.
A quick look at world news now, and Amnesty International says the number of executions surged by more than 50% worldwide last year. More than 1,600 people were executed in 2015, mostly in Iran, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Amnesty believes thousands more are likely to have been killed in China. However, records there are kept secret. A local resident has filmed a raging river in northern Pakistan where flash floods have killed more than 55 people. The floods have caused landslides that have damaged roads and cut communication. The unusually heavy rains are expected to move to northern India. And in Bolivia, police have clashed with dairy farmers protesting against a cut in the price of wholesale milk. The country's largest dairy plant, PIL in India, controls 80% of the country's dairy production. It says it has had to cut spending as it's running into a deficit. But farmers in other parts of Bolivia are threatening to join the protest. Sandile is standing by with the very latest in sports.
I appreciate that, Duduzile. Coming up, I'll hand it over to Duduzile now to see what people are speaking about on social media.
Thank you so much, Sandile. And outsourcing and fees must fall activist Vusi Mahlangu has been charged with perjury and defeating the ends of justice. He was arrested by the Hawks in East London last night. Mahlangu disappeared a week ago, and sent a message claiming to have been kidnapped. He appeared in court today and will remain in custody until Friday, when he makes a formal bail application. And a little earlier, we told you that civil society groups want President Jacob Zuma to resign and are calling on you to reclaim your freedom on April 27. And that led to our question. We asked you if you would join the mass protest. And so far, 68% of respondents voting, I'm so there. 5% not a chance. 20% saying that it's a waste of time. And 7% of the respondents also voting saying, well, come on. Right, remember you can of course comment on any of our stories. Do find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct, or you can head on over to our website. That's eNCA.com/direct. Do stay with us. After the break, we've got your business news as well as your weather. Welcome back. Money Matters now, and weak local growth will hurt South Africa's credit rating. Ratings agency Standard & Poor's has halved its expectations of local expansion. S&P now expects growth of 0.8% in 2016. This is down from its previous estimate of 1.8%. The agency is warning of a possible downgrade for Africa's most advanced economy. It says the Constitutional Court's eNCA ruling could divert government attention away from policy implementation. The rand has already taken a big knock following last week's judgment, dipping to above 15 rand to the US dollar. Meanwhile, South Africa is becoming a favorable investment destination for car manufacturers. BMW has unveiled its first standalone M showroom in Pretoria. It says that despite the country's economic and political uncertainties, it's confident about its investment here. The company maintains favorable government policies, which make South Africa attractive to foreign automobile manufacturers.
Unveiling the latest high-performance BMW model in South Africa.
It is one of our biggest markets in the world, but it is one of the very few where we have an integrated manufacturing facility. And as you know, we've just announced around 6 billion of investment to produce the next generation X3 here in the country. At the moment, all of those cars are made in the United States, so I think that tells you also our commitment to the country, our confidence in the country.
On Tuesday, American motor giant Ford announced plans to invest another 2.5 billion rand in its South African operations. That means foreign companies have committed nearly 50 billion rand to vehicle production under the government's incentive-driven automotive production and development program.
The manufacturing hub is here because of the work that was done between the government and the industry in establishing the MIDP some 15 years or so ago. And now we continue to see the benefits of that, and I think should not be underestimated, because there are plenty of countries in the world who would love an auto industry, and South Africa can be proud of what they've achieved.
The program is one of the most successful in attracting private sector investment. The motor industry provides hundreds of thousands of jobs across the country. BMW's investment is likely to pave the way for other similar showrooms. John Bailey, Pretoria.
Right, let's see how the markets perform today. Let's check in with the Weather Center now. Here's Louis.
Hello again, everyone. Let's start off with a look at the satellite imagery for today, and we see lots of cloud associated with the exiting cold front, and behind it lots of cold and moist air has been pushing in over South Africa. That's kept things very wet over some areas, and along with that it's been very windy from the low veld onto the high veld, and windy conditions have extended all the way through to the western coastline. It was a particularly windy day over much of the Northern Cape interior. Taking a look at tomorrow, in KwaZulu-Natal will be a couple of degrees warmer. There will be a possibility for a few showers over the northern and eastern parts, mainly in the morning. It's still going to be a cool day with temperatures in the upper teens and low 20s. Dry weather lies ahead for the Eastern Cape. A very cold morning for the northern interior. A bit of cloud cover near the coastline, but we're not expecting any rainfall. Sunny, dry and hot weather conditions for the Western Cape. On the other hand, berg winds pushing the temperatures up near the Atlantic seaboard. And as we head into the Northern Cape, hot as well for the coastal areas of the province, while over the opposite side we're going to see a few showers and thunderstorms lingering, in particular around Portsmouthburg. A mostly cloudy and cool day for the Free State. Isolated showers for the northern and central parts, but dry for a chilly Zastron in the south. And it's going to be a cloudy day as well for some parts of the northwest. There's still a likelihood for a few showers, scattered storms possible around Vryburg. Very little in the way of rain on the other hand for Limpopo. It's going to be a cloudy morning. Things will start clearing up later on. A bit of morning drizzle around Tsanin. In Mpumalanga, it's also going to be cloudy at first with fog in places. A cold day still expected for some parts of the Highveld. A likelihood for early showers in Standerton. And we could also see a couple of light showers at first over the central and southern parts of Gauteng. It's still going to be a cool day across the province with temperatures around the 20-degree mark as maximums. A look ahead to Friday and just very isolated showers into the central parts of the country. Things continue warming up over the western and southern coastline. And by Saturday, a sunny and hot start to the weekend for some parts of western South Africa. And it will be dry in the east as well, where temperatures continue to rise.
Thank you, Louis. After the break, a new world of wizardry for die-hard Harry Potter fans. Let's take a look at entertainment news now.
Yep, here's one for the die-hard Harry Potter fans.
The wizarding world of Harry Potter opens in California tomorrow. The theme park brings to life the quaint town of Hogsmeade from J.K. Rowling's much-loved books.
Yep, classic material fans will be able to immerse themselves in the painstakingly recreated shops and restaurants. There are also 2 rides, one of them through Hogwarts School.
Some of the stars of the Harry Potter films were there for the grand opening.
It's amazing, you know, it's hard for me not to sort of well up. It's like walking back through my old school ground. But very exciting to see faces of new people there, kids who haven't seen it before. It sort of reminds you how lucky you were to grow up there.
It's a world away from where we first went to the first audition in a hotel in England, and they were auditioning for every part of the film, and we thought, oh, they may even make 2 films out of this, that would be cool. So to just see it, it's far beyond anything I'd ever thought it would be.
I hope that they get a sense of feeling like they belong here. You know, I feel like this park it's very like the feeling is very inclusive.
A reminder of the day's top stories before we say goodbye. Civil society organizations unite in a campaign to get President Jacob Zuma to step down. The date for local government elections is announced ahead of the final weekend for voter registration. eNEWS Direct team.
Yep, we're back same time tomorrow. Up next, Rhythm City.
Remember, you can share your views with us. Do send us an email to eNewsdirect@etv.